The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Live tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, this is the 2018 LSRTV Clash at Daytona. As NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series gets set to return in just a few weeks, it's time for a little bit of preseason thunder, and that's where we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome for the LSRTV booth to once again the LSRTV Clash back again for this season. We're happy that you're with us on your home for sim racing and iRacing Live, alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, Chris Murdoch up at the LSRTV booth, as well Hugo Louise is downstairs twisted and tweaking the dials and bringing us to you this evening. And these guys will be right back here at Daytona, Chris, in 2 weeks to kick off the 2018 installment of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. Tons of storylines headed into tonight that will be headed into that race, but once they get there, their quest for the championship starts tonight. Is a little bit more laid back as these drivers race for a little bit of bragging rights to kick some of the rust off.
It is bragging rights, Evan, and I really like to call it as, more practice. You get into the swing of things with the drivers you've been around last season, some of the new drivers coming in, racing with these guys at Daytona. They really get an extra practice session with everybody going into that first peak race at Daytona. So it's going to be fun, 40 laps here tonight, and I'm excited to get it all kicked off.
Of course, in between the last time we saw these NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series cars on track, we did have coverage here on LSRTV of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series, so we got an upfront look at some of the new faces that will be making their way to this series for this 2018 campaign. But of course, to recap what we saw last year in this series, Chris, Ryan Luza taking home the 2017 championship in a hard-fought battle. The winner-take-all format from Homestead was excited. We will see that again in 2018, but we don't really want to get that far ahead of ourselves. We know the schedule. Maybe we'll have opportunities as the night goes on to talk about that. But the focus right now is on this Daytona International Speedway. And as we take a look at the track facts, honestly, a track that doesn't need much introduction. 2.5 miles in length. It ends the pro season and it begins the peak season as it has for the last couple of seasons. And tonight, though, the big thing to point out is we're going to be racing for 40 laps in this bragging rights exhibition. So not as long as obviously what we will see in a couple of weeks' time for the season opener. So going to be fast-paced right out of the gate.
It is going to be fast-paced, and you were talking about the Pro Series leading up to the Peak Series. Well, let's talk about your top two in the Peak Series. Colton Davis coming away with the Pro Series win, then Casey Kerwin coming in second. It was a really hard-fought battle down to the wire coming into the Daytona, so I'm going to be excited to see those two drivers kick it off and come racing with all these Peak guys here at Daytona.
Going to be an opportunity as well for folks tonight to adjust to some drivers with some different looking paint schemes, some new teams. Obviously, something that's really been in the news for the last couple of days is the folks over at Richmond Raceway putting together their own team for this Peak Antifreeze Series with the likes of Logan Clampett, Marcus Richardson, Brian Schoenberg, Jimmy Mullis, and Nick Ottinger. So those will be some new paint schemes that you're going to have to kind of get used to. And of course, one name that everybody's going to recognize, the two of Ray Alfala in this one as well. He'll be sporting our LSRTV colors this evening, so you're going to have to look for him in the red, white, and black this evening, still with the two on the door. Drivers just wrapped up qualifying. They're about to go trackside. When they do, we'll take a look at our starting lineup, but in the qualifying session and even in practice earlier on, a lot of drivers filling up for this one, Chris, so even though it's an exhibition race, going to have a full field tonight.
Yeah, definitely full field, and I could, talking about practice, they were going around, driving with each other, drafting with each other in practice, just trying to get a feel for this draft model, so to speak, and get around the track and see how everybody works together. So I think they've all got kind of a good feel about how everybody reacts in this race, and it should be a really good show.
And well, it is fun to see guys come up and down through the ranks. So with the Pro Series, and of course starting this year with the new Road to Pro format as well that iRacing has introduced, full-time truck series to qualify into the Pro Series, which is something that we will be talking about over the course of this entire Peak Antifreeze Series season once it gets kicked off with our friends over at RaceSpot TV in a couple of weeks. It is still relatively the same core group of drivers. They know how everybody races, which means that they should be able to go neck and neck tonight and have a lot of fun. With that being said, cars are down on pit road, so let's head down trackside and take a look at tonight's LSRTV starting grid. Poll for the LSRTV clash goes to the LSRTV Ford of Ray Alfala. He was best in the single car qualifying session. His 47.520 puts him up top. Just for perspective, though, that's 3 seconds slower than some of the fastest times we saw in practice with cars running in the draft. Second best in qualifying goes to Keegan Leahy, only 71,000ths off. Will roll off for the front row in the number 2 position, so those two drivers are going to be bringing us to the green flag this evening, obviously in the best starting spot, but if there's any track in which qualifying is the least important, I'd say Daytona is that place. Back on row 2, a couple of names we just mentioned, Brian Schoenberg and Marcus Richardson will start 3rd and 4th, and Casey Kerwin's also right there, P5.
His dead zone teammate Ryan Lowe in that 7 machine, he's going to be starting just on his outside in 6th. Brandon Pipgrass going to come starting in 7th. Bobby Zielinski going to be 8th. Blake Reynolds in that 66 going to be 9th. Rounding out your top 10, the 54 of Michael Guest.
Been on through 11th position on the starting grid. It goes to the 27 of Jimmy Mullis. Taylor Hurst will be alongside outside of row 6. Rolling off in 12th. Michael Conti's got a throwback paint scheme on board. Back to when that car was a champion in a NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. He's got those 2014 colors on board. He starts 13th this evening with Nick Ottinger alongside at 14th and P15. Right in the middle of all the excitement is the 11 of Colton Davis.
Chris Shearburn just behind him in 16th. Christian Chandler 17th. Andrew Fayash is going to be 18th. 19th. Nolan Scott rounding out your top 20. Casey Tucker.
These drivers again still qualifying in on time. First 47.7 on the qualifying charts with Zach Novak in 21st position. Logan Clement will start tonight in 22nd. Philip Diaz 23rd. Jarl Tien 24th. And Alex Bergeron rounds out your top 25.
Starting 26th, the 33 of Joe Litteriello. David Rattler 27th. 28th, Adam Gillen 29th. Cody Bias. Brad Davies 30th. Rounding out your 31 car field, the 34 of Matt Busa.
Look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid. Already gave you the lay of the land. 40 laps tonight for the World Center of Racing. These guys get set to go racing for the 2018 installment of the LSRTV Clash. Again, so happy that you're with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live. It is also a double-header night for us in just a little bit over 20 minutes. We're going to be live as well right here at Daytona with our friends at the Drive for Suicide Prevention. You're going to be broadcasting the hashtag Make Chester Proud 500 for suicide awareness. So just as we're wrapping things up here, they will be starting over there. If you got a couple of monitors, you can keep an eye on both. But definitely when we wrap things up here, I encourage you to go over there. Cisco Scaramouche is going to be keeping that one rolling, along with Austin Coop, Trevor Valderrama, and Brandon Kreutz in the booth also here on LSRTV. So typically, Sundays is a day off, but we've got plenty of sim racing action for you. And again, we're always so happy that you're joining us on your Racing and iRacing Live. The pace car is going to hit pit road, and we're going to get racing. First race of the season, we'll call it, as we get a preview of what the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series field is going to look like. We see the American Ethanol green flag, and the LSRTV Clash is green from Daytona Beach.
Still side by side as they're going down the line. Ray Alfala edged out on the inside, looking for Brian Schoenberg to give him a push to keep him on the inside of that 17 of Keegan Leahy. Side by side, nobody's wanting to give up just yet. Heading out of turn 2 down the Daytona Super Strip.
First time down that back, you see the inside line, but a car length of an advantage. Really, nobody has gotten anywhere besides still being tightly packed in line where we started. Haven't seen a lot of drivers, at least up to the front of the field, diving down low. You do see that 14, though, Casey Kerwin started 5th. You do see the inside now definitely getting that advantage. The 7 of Ryan Lowe is also going to go top to bottom, and as posted around, Fala leads after the first 2.5 miles. That 17 of Keegan Leahy kind of without help for the moment. Might drop outside of the top 4 before he can get back to Bobby Zielinski, who's the next car topside in 7th.
Yeah, Bobby Zielinski trying to fight up there to Keegan Leahy as everything's really cycled out single file for your top 5 here. Evan Brian Schoenberg closely following behind that 2 of Ray Alfala, Casey Kerwin, Ryan Loeb, Blake Reynolds, the Dead Zone trio, not really making a big push for anything just yet, but side-by-side battle as now you'll see Blake Reynolds jump up in front of Leahy, maybe try to get something going, but I don't think he's going to go too far as now the 27 of Jimmy Mullis closes in that gap.
Well, the problem is it's going to spark something up top for the 66, but typically the first guy to go up doesn't really get to reap the benefits because once the third, fourth, fifth in line on the inside of the racetrack start to see the outside, you'll get somebody like a 14 to Casey Kerwin or that 7 to Ryan Lowe jump up to the outside of the racetrack as well and kind of take that momentum away, but not moving as quickly on the outside as Blake Reynolds would have preferred, I'm sure. He's kind of stagnant right now alongside the 5 of Michael Conti, which would put him in about 6th position as they do get that little bit of a better run coming down the banking on turn 2 and down the super stretch. That really is where the top side is faster than the guys on the inside of the racetrack, but you can see that line and that momentum stalls out into the corner. Still about 5-6 car lengths to the inside, still behind the 2 of Alfala, completing lap number 3.
Alfala comes to complete lap number 3. Nothing really happening up front as you see Blake Reynolds falling back with Leahy. You've got to have a lot of drivers up there, especially with this full field, Evan, to make that outside line work. Side draft just isn't going to cut it here early on at Daytona, and I think the 66 and the 17 learned that the hard way because they're dropping like a rock all the way back through. They're now just side by side with the 16 of Nolan Scott, so that just gives you a little bit of how far they fell back through this thing. Meanwhile, up front, you could barely fit a piece of paper going through there going into turn 3. They're so close, but nobody's looking to make a move just yet.
And maybe that's the key to this thing. We talked about how 40 laps isn't that long of a race. And reality is in there, you got all kinds of issues in the center of the pack. Everybody scatters on their way down the front straightaway. It almost looked like drivers were headed to pit road, but the 66 got all kinds of out of shape. That was Blake Reynolds. Went down through the grass. The 83 was in the grass as well. No caution, though, and we stay green. Somehow, the whole field did not just get watered up, but you saw it out of the top of the screen there. A couple of cars into the grass, and somehow this race is still without a caution as everybody keeps them going, and there is no accident on the front straightaway.
Yeah, it's a miracle that that wasn't a caution. Looked like Keegan Leahy just didn't get square on the bumper with the 66, and we see that a lot here at the super speedways like Daytona and Talladega, where you just got to be sure you're hitting them square on the button on that rear end just to make sure they don't turn them around. And unfortunately for Blake Reynolds, no caution going to come out as he spun through the grass. Meanwhile, still back up front, Ray Alfala leading, Brian Schoenberg second, Casey Kerwin in that 14 machine going to be sitting in third as they're all single file throughout your top 10. Everybody scattered after that one and really shook everything up.
When we, obviously we saw the guys up front start to get that separation, but once that middle of the pack, which is where there was still 2, even at moments 3 wide going on, once they all got scared and checked up, everything kind of fell apart, and the only driver who wants to make something work topside right now is the 11 of Colton Davis. Not sure if it was voluntary or not, but he is up on the outside of the racetrack. He looked high on Conti, and that spot was quickly filled, though, by that 78 machine of Christian Challoner. So now the 11's kind of stuck up top, and without any support coming, I would assume he'll end up behind Challoner here at about 8th position sooner rather than later. But that side draft, to be fair, Chris, is strong enough for the 11 to just stay there. The outside has struggled, obviously, making up ground. And as we see the 27 Mullis go topside, maybe something's cooking in a lead pack that sees the top 10 cars still within a second of each other.
Yeah, make no mistake, Evan. If you can get that side draft just working in your favor, you can stay side by side with the inside line for a number of laps, but you just got to make sure you work it. But you always flirt with getting too close to those drivers going through the corners. Now with Davis having a little help from Mullis, he's able to stay up there with Conti and try to keep that 78 machine behind him. And you see them moving just a little bit up towards the front. They're now almost side by side with Casey Kerwin, so you might see more drivers hop up there towards the outside. But right now they're doing an awesome job working that outside line with 2 cars just making it up to the front.
And that's definitely how that momentum comes and goes so quickly. You could have a great run. One driver drops down. All of a sudden, it falls off to the back end. 2 car length advantage still for the drivers on the inside of the racetrack. We're working lap number 8 of 40 in this LSRTV Clash at Daytona. If you're just getting here, we're happy that you're with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live as we get a little bit of preseason Thunder action, a preview of what we will see in a couple of weeks with the NASCAR Picanha Series powered by iRacing opener right here at Daytona. With everybody that you see on track right now, 31 cars took to the green flag in this race. Like at the moment, all 31 drivers still on the lead lap. We did have a couple of drivers to note. Start from pit road. Marcus Richardson and Brandon Pipgrass did not go with the field to the American Ethanol green flag. They rolled out of pit road, so they're about 22 seconds off of the pack, but everybody's still on track, including the drivers who obviously we saw have those close calls at Bobby Zelensky and Blake Reynolds, who went through the grass earlier without the yellow.
Yeah, no yellow going through, and I think that's the way that the 27 of Mullis is liking it right now, because look at him. And Davis, and now even the 5 of Conti tried to jump up with him, but is getting left back. Now you'll see the 7 of Ryan Lowe jump to the outside line right behind Colton Davis. So here we go, Evan. This is what we've been waiting for. How long was it going to take before we saw that outside line form up again? Well, this is it, side by side for the lead. Mullis, Alfala down the Daytona Superstretch.
And it's the first real challenge the 2 of Alfala has seen. Started on a pole. He's led all 9 laps to this point. He hasn't even seen somebody get alongside him, aside from, obviously, the drop to the green flag where Keegan Leahy was up there. The 27, though, should get the run off the quarter. How good is the push going to be from Colton Davis? First time tonight, we have a new race leader. It comes at lap 10. Jimmy Mullis, just with the nose in front at the line, leads. Now a quarter of the way through the LSRTV Clash. Don't think that means Alfala is going to roll over to the 2-car right back up the inside. But with that 55 of Brian Schoenberg not having a push from behind, just as I say that, 11 goes back inside, and now you have to think they now have the preferred line again.
Yeah, you saw Casey Kerwin go up and Colton Davis go back down, so they kind of evened out, but when Colton Davis got back down, he had to check up just to not run into the back of Brian Schoenberg because of how much momentum he had from that top line. So they got way separated and separated that line. So look at the 27 Mullis come back again. Is he gonna be able to sneak one by Ray Alfala once again? I do not believe so, as Ray Alfala takes that lap. But that's all it takes, Evan. Just one good run at a turn 4 can spoil this race. Ray Alfala could lead the whole thing, but the outside line can come on the last second out of 4 and just take it. That's how close it's going to be at this during this race.
And you haven't really seen, again, aside from the fact that when we saw that, check up, we saw everybody single file out, that lasted maybe a lap and a half, and now it's been 2x2 ever since then, with the 27 just on the cusp of clearing the 2, but the 14 got a little bit out of shape, wasn't lined up with that bumper. That's a Toyota working with a Ford. He checked up a little bit, but with another good run, Mullis is going to go back to the race lead and has space on the inside. He wants to bring the 14 with him, and with not a lot of room to spare, 27 Mullis goes to the race lead. Kerwin came down with him. It looks like he went right back up topside to want a challenge at the 14. Not happy with settling for second. He wants to make his own charge to the front.
Yeah, you could see the 14 of Casey Kerwin try to play a little bit of games there and try to cut the run of Ray Alfala just so he'd go back up and use the 7 of Ryan Lowe, but I don't think it really worked out in his favor. There was contact between the 55 and the 17 during that move, which separated Keegan Leahy from the 7 of Ryan Lowe, so the momentum didn't really work out in Kerwin's favor, but here he comes charging off of turn 4 through the tri-oval. Not going to quite get Jimmy Mullis this time by, but he's definitely in position if Ryan Lowe can get up to his back bumper.
And you just look, and when you see the racetrack kind of log jammed, if you will, 2x2 throughout, you have to think it's going to be difficult for drivers to make up time. Not necessarily the case. Colton Davis, we've been talking about him for the better part of this, started back at 15th. Christian Challoner, he's gone 17th to 8th. Nolan Scott, 19th to 9th. Even Casey Tucker, 20th to 11th positions. You've already got a handful of drivers who have already picked up almost 10 spots. Jimmy Mullis, race leader, started at 11th, but a caution flag at lap number 14, and it's problems on the back straight away with a 66 of Blake Reynolds in 28th position is around at a quarter number 2. It'll be our first yellow of the evening.
Yeah, unfortunate for Blake Reynolds. He wasn't having the strongest of day after getting spun out through the grass there, and we'll get the replay up for you on your screen. Looks like the 12 just got into the back bumper and spun them both out and got collected to the outside wall. Hard crash for the 66 of Reynolds, as that will be the first caution that we see today.
And I think the damage, as you take a second look at the LSRTV replay again, 66 was involved in that spin early, so was the 83 in front of him. You could visibly see the damage on those cars. I have to think with that 12 of Bergeron trying to give him a push, the back end of that 66 was crinkled up a good bit and does not make for a good soft and kind of straight object to push on. And the overhead shot, I think, was the best one. He was a little bit to the left side of the rear and just sent Tim around. So unfortunately, two cars at the back going to bring it a caution at lap number 14. And the race leaders are going to group things up. Not that they needed any grouping up. Everybody was still tight together. We had the top 15 cars the lap before the yellow came out within 1 second of the race leaders. But with pit road open, expecting drivers to come down, they will be led by the 27 of Mullis. But Kerwin staying out. So does Alfala. A 50-50 split on pit calls.
Yeah, Mullis coming down low, Schoenberg, other drivers, a whole host of drivers, but like you said, split down the middle as the 14 of Casey Kerwin will come in. We'll see if the 27 takes 4 tires or 2. Doesn't look like any tires, just fuel for that driver, and there he goes off and away. So he comes out, and the 09 making some moves on pit road, going to come out just behind him.
So an interesting decision with a 40-lap contest to see those drivers come down to the pit lane. As you noted, Mullis came down pit road as the race leader, and he quickly in and out, first car off of pit road. Other drivers who also decided to come down and pit with him is David Rattler, Zach Novak, Marcus Richardson, Keegan Leahy, Schoenberg, Lowe, and Benny Moore. Almost close to, I'd say, a 50-50 split. You have to think maybe just with a 40-lap total distance in this race, Chris, those drivers wanted to come down, get a splash of fuel, try to make it to the end. If you're staying out, I assume you're trying, or at least banking on the fact that you're going to have a couple of more yellows to save enough fuel to get to 40. Because I think if this race goes green, you can't do it.
You're exactly right. You're just hoping and praying that you can save, get to 40, hope for a few more yellows. There's a whole lot of factors that can play into this, and for Kerwin, Alfala, drivers that stayed out, they're just playing this game because we all know, Evan, cautions breed cautions, and I think these peak drivers know it best, especially at a track like Daytona that can be so unforgiving. So we'll just see how all the cards fold here as we are really blowing by through this race.
Yeah, this race is almost already halfway through, so that's what you come to expect when you have a very short 40-lap sprint to the end. And, you know, you kind of get an opportunity under these yellow flags to settle things down, to kind of take a deep breath, and to maybe takes that sense of urgency away just a little bit. Obviously, as we see the lights go on top of the iRacing.com official pace car, every time we got a restart, everybody has to get up on the wheel and they get going once more. But I have to think, at least in some small respect, that these caution flags allow these guys to settle things down, kind of take a look at where everybody is and hit the reset button and get set to go again, because it was really getting dicey there once we got everybody grouped up side by side up front. Great racing, but not the stuff that lends itself to going green flying all the way. So we'll see how these drivers handle the restart, and obviously in control of this restart is now going to be Casey Kerwin. So we'll see how he deals on the inside of the front row. 14 machine. You can also see LSRTV on the quarter panel of his Ford Fusion. Happy to be riding with him over the course of this 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series season as well.
Yeah, and how about that 14 car? I know he was in the news a little bit throughout the Facebook and the Twitters throughout the rest of the week, picking up Napa, Chick-fil-A, and even got us on the car. So great job by Casey Kerwin bringing in some sponsors for this year. And, you know, this restart should be fun because look at Ray Alfala. Started on the pole and hasn't really fluctuated too much from there. Now he's going to be on the outside of Casey Kerwin. Well, the last driver that started on the outside, Keegan Leahy, he's all the way back in 15th. So we'll see if the same fate falls to Ray Alfala or if he can use this draft to his advantage to stay up with Casey Kerwin.
Pace car's going to drop down and in, and we'll see what happens. 3 laps shy of the halfway point in the LSRTV clash. It is the 14 to Casey Kerwin on the inside of the front row, bringing us back to the green flag. Kerwin and Alfala 1-2 are the only drivers who started inside of the top 10 that still occupied positions inside of the top 10 as we complete lap 17. Inside, a much better restart. Davis gives a shove to Kerwin down to quarter number 1, and Alfala quickly abandons the outside, tucks in line P3.
Yeah, and that's the best case scenario from the questionable restart that Ray Alfala had there. Didn't get the restart he wanted, of course, so he was able to just drop back in. Now you'll see the 78 single file everything out through your top 10, so have to see how things go. We saw how it was coming towards an end during the first caution there, Evan, so I do expect everything to pick back up as we get the green flags lap circulating once again.
And now we see the single file, but it's going to break 2 by 2 real quick. Big run for Alfala this time. He looks hard. The 11 saw that, and Alfala's going to cross him over. You could see Colton Davis anticipating that run, and as soon as Alfala stepped up, the 11 went right with him, and Alfala countered, went right back down to the inside, had no intention of pushing Colton Davis to the race lead, and the role of that, Davis is going to be the driver who drops back, and Alfala ends up gaining a position to P2.
Yeah, what a perfectly executed move by Ray Alfala. I think he noticed exactly what we were noticing up here in the booth, Evan. He saw the 11 start shading high, and he knew exactly what he was going to do, because as soon as Davis went high, you could see that 2 machine cut it back down, and Davis is just dropping still on the outside. Now going to be on the outside of Chris Shearburn in that 36 machine, so unfortunate for that 11 machine. But meanwhile, back up front, not too much going on. Casey Kerwin's still your leader, but like you mentioned, swapping for second, Ray Alfala, Nolan Scott going to be right behind that 14 machine.
And it's going to be difficult for Ray, if he wants to make a play for the race lead, to recreate that run. He got such a big run because he had dropped back a little bit, about a car length, when he jumped down in line. Then as the draft started to kick in, he sucked up to the back bumper of the 11, used that momentum, the slingshot, if you will, up to the outside of the racetrack and started to move. So you see the 2 down, just as we say that, spits back a little bit, you get a car length of difference, and now as he gets the run, watch for the 2 and the 16 to make a play to the outside of the racetrack. The 2 is going to go, but the 16 doesn't bite. Nolan Scott holds still on the inside, and Alfala timed it well, but with no support, is in no man's land.
Yeah, and the same fate gonna fall to Alfala that did to Davis, just gonna drop a few positions, already dropping all the way back to 3rd. So, and I thought for sure the 16 of Nolan Scott given the last lap, because, you know, Ray Alfala almost recreated the exact same thing he did the lap before in the exact same manner. Went up top, thought the 16 was going to go with him to pick up another position, but instead left the 2 out to drive. So we'll see what the 16 of Nolan Scott has to do with Michael Guest in that 54 machine on his back bumper. We'll see if he tries to make a move, or is he comfortable riding around in second as we crossed halfway.
The 28, the 2, and Alfala exchanged a couple of blows there. Alfala really pinched it down Casey Tucker. The Tucker moved back up on him a little bit. Alfala tried to be as aggressive as he can with that side draft to not fall back. However, with no support, Alfala's at a race low P6. It's only going to get worse if Jarl Tienin at 3 gets around and Alfala would have fallen to 8th position. I do find it funny, though, right off of the top, Chris, I mentioned that, yes, we see drivers come through the Pro Series, and we'll start to see drivers come through Road to Pro, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty solid group of drivers that know how each other races. Well, they're not very courteous to one another, with Alfala not helping the 11 out, and then the 16 at Nolan Scott leaving Alfala out just laps later. These guys have no intentions of helping somebody else to a race win if you're not a teammate. Seems like everybody's in this bragging rights race for themselves, and I'd say rightfully so.
You're exactly right, Evan. I think, especially with it being the bragging rights race, the first race, everybody wants that win. Everybody wants that top spot. They're not really thinking about anybody else out there. They're just having fun, trying to make some moves and get that bragging rights and get a win out of it. And that's exactly what everybody's out there doing for themselves. If somebody's willing to jump out and help them, good, but nobody's out there looking for any friends. And you gotta think, over the years, these people have known and grown together, raced each other for many years on the circuit, even before the Peak Series coming up through here, so everybody knows how everybody races and how they act. So definitely got to keep that in mind as we're winding down the laps here at Daytona.
You have to think, when do you make the move? We saw today in the clash at Daytona, drivers wait until the last lap to make a move. It wasn't enough, and Brad Keselowski got the first win in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series of 2018. So in our LSRTV clash, we see drivers single filing out late in the going. The top 7 cars are single file. We do have support, though. Alfala's not on his own anymore. He's tucked up behind the 46 of Logan Clampett. The drivers, as we alluded to earlier, with a new look for this season behind the wheel of the 46 Toyota. One of the drivers working with the folks over at Richmond Raceway and the Chaos Crew for the end pass season. That's him leading the outside charge, but drivers are getting antsy. Look at the 26 of Casey Tucker. Was thinking about it, finally commits to the outside. Expect a run coming from those guys topside here shortly.
Yeah, that top side's forming up and looking to make a charge. The 28, the 46, Logan Clampett, just to name a few, just trying to make through. And look at that down the back end. You got Ray Alfala attacking on there, going through turns 3 and 4. They're coming with a full head of steam here, Evan. 28 leading the charge, like you mentioned, Casey Tucker. So Casey Kerwin, Nolan Scott, Michael Guest basically sitting ducks right now, trying to wait, maybe anticipate this run to be a part of it. We'll see if anybody tries to make any gutsy moves and jump up. Look at that. Just as I said that, the 54 on Michael Guest going to jump up, join the party on the outside line, and that just spells trouble for the 14 and the 16.
Side by side, now up to 3rd on the racetrack. It is still Casey Kerwin leading this race. Aggressive move to the inside for Logan Clampett. He really spearheaded this charge up top after he jumped up in front of Alfala, and everybody else decided to join him, but he's going to go down to the inside of the racetrack, so Clampett tucks in between the 3 car of Tien and the 0-1 behind them of Marcus Richardson, and even just the difference of having 1 less car, you see all of that momentum swing back in favor of the cars down low, and at 54, Michael Guest, after thinking, all right, this is it, moving to the outside to make a play, he falls to P6 in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I just ate my words right there, Evan, because I thought it was going to spell trouble for the 14 and the 16, but it looks like it just spelled disaster for that outside line, because as soon as the 54 of Guest jumped to the line, that pretty much killed the run, and Logan Clampett got out of there as fast as he can, so now they're going to try to regroup, restack it again, but add 1 to the mix. That's going to be the 3 of Jarl Tien, trying to make it up to the move, and now Michael Guest going to give him a huge shove going down the back straightaway into the 3, and they have a run coming on the top side, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to challenge that inside line that is so close together going out of 4.
And they are door-to-door with the 36 and the 3 machine. Lap number 27 now complete. 13 laps to go from the Daytona International Speedway. This 2018 NASCAR Peak for Series powered by iRacing season gets kicked off next Tuesday on February the 20th, right back here from the World Center of Racing. Live coverage Tuesday nights, as always, with our friends over at RaceSpot TV and on iRacing.com/live. Drivers, though, having a little bit of fun here this evening with the bragging rights race to unofficially open up their 2018 calendar. And it has been a fun one so far with only 1 caution flag. The one's going to be elapsed to 28 laps as this time by. And well, the 16 and the 14 seem to be very comfortable up front. I'm not sure where the mindset is for Challenger and that 36 is Sherburne, as we do see T and also jump ship go down to the inside of the racetrack. So you can see that those guys are thinking about it. They kind of move up out of line a little bit, take a look back on the outside. I'm just kind of thinking this thing's going to blow open here any moment.
Yeah, I'm starting to see as we're getting closer and closer to 10 laps to go. We saw Sherburne shade, but too late to jump up in front of Guest as they're making a huge run down the back. Going into 3 with Alfala now on the back bumper of Guest. Guest just cannot seem to get past that 78 of Challenger. He can get up to him, get side by side, but then the run dies because that 2 and company just cannot stay as tight as this inside line can, because really this inside line just really has to ride around. They can use the draft of the person behind them, in front of them, to just kind of pull them along and not really use too much of their engine, and their water and oil temps up. But when you're on that outside line, to get that run and to keep that run, Evan, you have to be pushing almost the entire time or be close enough to get that temp to go up, and it's just not working for him, because you see now Alfala have to lay off a big chunk of time between him and Guest just to cool that car off, but definitely does not want to give up his spot in line on the outside.
It'll also give him a big run, but I don't really think he wants to get around the 54 and make it 3 wide. There is room up there. Daytona a lot tighter than the likes of Talladega, and you're starting to see the inside accordion up. Things can go downhill real quick, and just as I say it, it's Diaz. The 94 spins to the inside. 55 is Schoenberg off track as well. Everybody else still on the asphalt hangs on, and again, no caution. We stay green.
Yeah, able to spin it off down to the inside line, almost to the start of the road course here, Evan, as we stay green, but that really just put a damper and that outside line, slowed him down a lot. It's going to take a lot for Alfala to get all the way back up to that back bumper, as you see the replay come up on your screen of just light contact between Diaz and company to get spun down throughout the rest of the field and towards that inside line. Unfortunate for them, so late, but 9 laps to go this time by. Is the outside line going to have anything for Casey Kerwin, or will Nolan Scott make a move here in the next few laps?
Everybody was making contact to the inside. Schoenberg and Scott, the unlucky 2 that happened to go around. But meanwhile, up front, we've got a battle for the race lead in our hands. Here comes Michael Guest. The 54 is not willing to give this one up. Started this race in 10th position. Made a charge up to P2, and it's very easy to see how it fluctuates. We got about 4 cars right now clear on the inside. Half a lap ago it was only 2, so the outside gets a big run and then it dies off. It's very difficult for them to get up side by side for the race lead and stay side by side for the race lead. If they're going to pass that 14 to Casey Kerwin, it's going to come in one of those big pushes.
And that's exactly right. And I do want to make a little bit of a comparison, because you were talking about the real-life flash earlier and how Brad Keselowski won this race. Well, what was he driving? He was driving a Ford. What's that driver out in front driving right now? Could we see a Ford sweep? Because Nolan Scott, Casey Kerwin, both in those blue ovals, controlling this field right now, as now you see the outside line try to get that run going once again with now the 3 of y'all team. A huge push by Guest going through the corner, not wanting to get off the back bumper of the 3 machine, as now Scott will jump to the outside, kind of kill the momentum. You see Scott get a little bit out of shape, almost a bad wreck going through there, but it looks like Scott's going to be able to get by Casey Kerwin, at least take the lap. But no, the 78's not going to allow that 16 to clear, as he keeps the 14 side by side going off into 1.
And obviously, the 3 Jarl Tien not a fan of that move, because he was the one envisioning rocketing to the top of the board. That 3 car did not lift at all. He gave a shove to Nolan Scott. The 16, kudos to him, handled it pretty well, led that time by, but now you're stuck in this stalemate up front with the 14 and the 16 side by side, and it's going to be very difficult for those cars topside to get enough of a run without dropping back some to clear the 14. Now, to be fair, if you're the 16 at Nolan Scott, you don't have to jump down in line and clear the 14 to win the race. You just have to have a nose in front this time. Favor goes to the inside of the racetrack. Casey Kerwin leading by 14 1/1000ths of a second. We will take 5 laps left to go the next time by.
Yeah, 5 laps to go next time by, Evan. And if you're going to make a move, I think the gloves come off now. If you're wanting to make a move, you got to at least formulate it to be there. Be up front, to indicate that nose away, and look at Nolan Scott going to have the edge going down the back straightaway, but that run will quickly go away due to the preferred line on the inside, the shortest way around this track. And you see Casey Kerwin quickly even it back up, as now Tien's going to have to back off, but not too much, because Michael Guest says, hey, get back up there, we got a race to win. So Michael Guest all over the back bumper of the 3 machine, trying to get him back up to Nolan Scott, as now you see the back and the inside line start to filter away once again.
Was an issue just a little bit ago with Joe Lottarello. He's okay, though. Again, an incident that doesn't involve an accident, I guess, per se. No caution, and we stay green. This time by, going to be 4 to go, and of course, that is the dreadful point. No return if you get a caution in the final 4 laps, and as we say that, it's going to happen on the back and spinning on the back straightaway. Saw maybe it was the 3 car. It was the first who got turned, and it was Jarl Tien who got hooked, went straight down, and it is a mess on the super stretch.
Yeah, and it really started just before that, Evan, as you see the 01 of Marcus Richardson getting the back bumper of Michael Guest, which really just sent Guest careening down into the 46 of Logan Clampett, and the 3 of Tien, like you mentioned, just a bystander, collecting a few other drivers as drivers going through the grass just to try to miss it and spinning around there. So unfortunate for the 3, the 54, the 46, and You know, they had a really strong outside line going, and that's just how quickly things can go away here at Daytona, and really at any track, really, but just quickly how things can change.
And ironically enough, I was going to say, well, when you get to 4 laps to go or less, the race is probably not going to have an opportunity to restart because we got that yellow coming to 4 to go, and we've already picked up the pace car. This race, I don't think, is quite over yet. We should have a 1-lap shootout to decide who's going to win the LSRTV Clash at Daytona, which, if, well, you're going to have an exhibition race, that doesn't mean anything for points, and what everybody tuning in wants to see is an exciting finish. I don't think it could get much more exciting than having a 1-lap dash to the end. Of course, we'll have to wait. It all depends on, you know, how many drivers are going to be coming down to the pit lane and such. Casey Kerwin leading, obviously not going to want to give up the track position whether we go back green or not. The 14 is going to stay out and try to coast this one home. He would not mind if this race doesn't go back green. Kerwin trailed by Challoner in second, Chris Shearburn in third, Nolan Scott fourth, and Ray Alfala posted her in 5th position. Your biggest mover all night long is a little bit deeper in the pack, but how about Brad Davies, Chris? Not necessarily a name we've talked about because there've been plenty of excited action up front. That Davies working through the middle of the pack didn't necessarily catch the radar, but a tip of the cap to Brad Davies, plus 17 positions, running 13th right now as we see wave by go to Adam Gilliland in 26th.
Yeah, Daytona is known for just having those little drivers creep up through the field ever so slowly, so Brad Davies making a good run of it here in this exhibition race, from 30th to 13th, Casey Tucker 20th to 6th. A lot of drivers making their way up through the field, Evan, and if this race goes back green, you've got to think of how much pressure it puts on these drivers, because yes, it's an exhibition race, yes, it's just bragging rights, but everybody wants that win at Daytona. Everybody wants to say, yeah, I beat those guys at Daytona, and you have to start communicating with the person in front of you or the person behind you and making sure you have a near perfect restart to have any contention or any shot at winning this race. And even going down to the long back straightaway, you have to be able to defend your position throughout the entire lap. It's just going to be a chaos on this final lap if we get one more to go.
We will find out what the verdict is going to be. I have not seen any congratulations go out yet, but this time by 38 laps going to be complete. We'll take 2 laps to go. So if we do not get lights out on top of the pace car and 1 lap to go to the restart, this race will end under caution to flag conditions. So drivers probably already know. We're going to find out if we're going to have a restart in the LSRTV Clash or it's going to be an easy stroll through the park for Casey Kerwin. Pace car to the start-finish line with 38 laps complete. Looks like the lights will stay on, which should tell me that this race may just pace out through the end of it. We'll wait until we hear anything else for race control, but it looks like Casey Kerwin is going to be able to hang on, and for all of the chatter that 14 team has got up on the social medias over the last couple of days, parking that car in victory lane for their first race out on 2018 sure wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't hurt at all, and we'll have to see if maybe there's an overtime option here, being that this is just an exhibition race, but with the lights off or still on the pace car, that's got to be somewhat of a sigh of relief for Casey Kerwin to maybe put this one and take this win in the bag.
We will see if we do get an opportunity, and that's why we said we'll wait for race control to give us any official word, is just because the scoring in the service, ends at lap number 40. With it being an exhibition race, we can keep on going, and we may get an opportunity to go green-white checker, or even just a 1-lap shootout. And because of the fact that under typical circumstances, Chris, this race would be ending under yellow, but because nobody's talking over the radio with one another, congratulating each other, that tells me that we are going to have an overtime finish in this one. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, the drivers can really tell a story in these type of races, Evan. You don't see any chatter going on. You see people taking the cars behind the wall, knowing that they won't have any other shot at winning this race. But for the drivers that have been in it all day, they're still staying. They're staying quiet. Nothing said over the radio. Nothing going on too much. Just quiet pace and quiet lurking. And I think I see the 78 of Christian Challoner shading the outside. So I think that just tells us what's about to happen here.
This time by, we take the 1 lap to go of scheduled distance. The lights obviously now go out on top of the pace car as they will go out in theory. The pace car is going to drop down to the pit lane this time by, so we will know if we see folks doubling up or not, if we are going to get a restart in this race. Again, we started tonight with 31 cars in the field, and we run right now with 21 drivers on track, but only a handful of drivers have actually dropped out of this thing. As Fayash, Busa, Reynolds, and Bergeron not had a long go at it, if you will. So other than that, I think we've seen a pretty good racing. Only the second yellow as well, Chris, we've seen on tonight, and for as dicey as things have gotten at points, it's pretty good as well.
Yeah, not that many cautions, at least not as many cautions I expected in this exhibition race where I thought everybody would be fighting for everything. Everybody was pretty calm, cordial, keeping it single file and only making moves when they needed to, or really keeping it clean out there on the track. And it was such a really, really good race to, I guess, kind of kick off the 2018 season and what's to come at Daytona in 2 weeks' time.
Just getting confirmation from the folks up in the tower that we will go overtime racing from Daytona International Speedway. So when you got an exhibition race and you've got technically as much track time as you want, why not? So it is not going to be a safe stroll through the park for Casey Kerwin. He is going to have to go elbows up and try to fight for this one if he wants to park it in victory lane come the end of the night here from Daytona in the LSRTV clash. So we'll come by this time. Regulation time will expire. The field will double up, and we will go green the next time by. Bit of overtime action in the clash. Casey Kerwin on the front row, and for such a short run to the end as well, Chris, I do think that 14's in a very good position. We have seen a lot of side-by-side tonight, but it has taken about 2 or 3 laps at best for the outside to get going, and that's just simply because, well, the inside of the racetrack is the shortest way around, and that means that, well, you're going to be quicker getting up to speed before that draft really has an opportunity to kick itself into high gear. So it might have to be somebody like a Chris Shearburn inside of row 2, or somebody like the 2 of Ray Alfala inside of row 3 after getting what we expect to probably be a better jump compared to the guys on the outside to then quickly make a move to the top and try to make something happen. Also, we've yet to see 3 wide. Why not now?
And you're exactly right. Why not now? The gloves are going to come off, especially going into some unscheduled overtime racing here. Everybody wants this win. Everybody wants another shot at it. So just seeing these drivers go up, Casey Kerwin has to make it 2 laps. That's all he's got to do. He's done a good job so far at holding everybody off that's made a good run just by holding the inside line. We'll see if he can carry that trend to keep the victory here with the LSRTV crash, the Clash carrying the LSRTV stickers on his car. So we'll see if he can get it done, or will anybody else in this field be able to take him off the pedestal and capture one early here in 2018.
We'll see if this one will end with the crash, or if we go green to the end of this one. Overtime racing from Daytona International Speedway. It's the LSRTV Clash at Daytona. It's set to put the right foot down one final time. Pace car down to the inside of the racetrack this time, and the field going to be left in the hands of the 14 of Casey Kerwin. American Ethanol green flag as we go back green.
Yeah, not the run the inside line needed with Shearburn and Alfala falling off. It looks like the outside line actually got a good run to start off the restart. Here's the 70 of Challoner with the 16 of Scott all over the back end of that Toyota. Gonna push him side by side with the 14 of Kerwin, but it's not gonna be enough for Shearburn and Alfala get it regathered up all over the back end. Where we're gonna see a move be made. You see Shearburn trying to make a move where a hole is not. You can see him shading up and back down, and now the outside line is gonna get some help with Scott and the 28 making an appearance here, going through the top side as they go off of turn 4.
Side by side, we come to turn 4 again. Casey Kerwin the advantage. He's going to have a car length and a half as we come by the start-finish line. The 36 is all over the bumper. Tries to look high and he's going to get turned. Shearburn down off of the inside. No caution as we're going to race this one out to the end. Alfala looking high as well as he challenges for the race lead.
You saw Casey Kerwin trying to block it going down the back straightaway, but not going to be enough as Alfala is going to be out on the outside. You see the 17 trying to make it move, trying to push Casey Kerwin clear, and I don't think Alfala is going to have it coming through 3 and 4. Challenger's not there. The 17 going to be pushing the 14 clear of the 2 as they come out of 4.
Watch the 17 looking high. It's going to be his last and only shot. Challenging for the race win. Kerwin's going to go high on a block, but it's not going to work. And as we rock across the line, it is going to be Casey Kerwin as it is complete destruction behind, throwing the block for the win from Daytona. It was a stellar run by Keegan Leahy, who was charging on the outside of the racetrack, had all of the momentum with Ray Alfala pushing him, but courtesy of the right side door of the 14, the 17 goes sideways at the end, and in a cloud of smoke and sparks, Kerwin takes the win in the LSRTV Clash at Daytona, and somehow Ray Alfala is going to spin across the line P2, with the 01 car Richardson third, then the 17 car up on the outside of the racetrack in 4th position, and I think jammed in the middle of all of that was the 78 car of Challenger for P5.
Yeah, what a crazy, crazy win here for Casey Kerwin. I don't know if it was much of a block as it was a body check there. Evan going towards the last end. Keegan Leahy definitely not happy with how that one turned out, but Casey Kerwin gonna do the burnouts on the front straightaway at the checkered flag stand, doing burnouts for the first time of 2018 in what would be called the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series.
He hopes that this can translate into some points racing success here at Daytona next Tuesday night. The bragging rights this evening to go to Casey Kerwin. He is your winner of the 2018 LSRTV Clash at Daytona. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. We encourage you to stick with us. Also, we are live on LSRTV as well. If you click over on the YouTube channel or get with us on the social media stuff, we're also live with the Bakechester Proud 500 with our friends at the Drive for Suicide Prevention. That race is also going on now, so if you get to step aside, make sure to join us throughout the rest of the evening. But we'll take an opportunity to step aside for a brief moment, come back, and wrap up what was a thrilling race this evening. You've been watching the LSRTV Clash at Daytona on LSRTV and iRacing Live, the post show when we come back to the world's center of racing on your home for sim racing. This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV, and it may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.
Just like a movie, just like a storybook, we are the future, we're the ones they won't overlook. It's time to be the hero. Like you've never seen, like you've never seen. Looking for a hero. Just like in a dream, just like in
And welcome back live to the Daytona International Speedway following a thrilling 2-lap shootout in tonight's LSRTV Clash. We saw the 14 machine use all means necessary to get the win. Casey Kerwin takes on the checkered flag tonight. We'll go downstairs, chat with him and a couple of your other top finishers in just a moment. Before we do so, though, Chris, this race, 2 caution flags over the course of our 40 laps. It took overtime to get things decided, but we definitely saw that these race cars are competitive, and it should be a good thing going into the opener in 2 weeks' time. Looking forward to that one a little bit more after we got a taste of the action here tonight.
Yeah, pretty excited to see what we got going on in this Peak Series, especially after the finish we saw there. Definitely going to be some redemption to be had in 2 weeks' time as we kick off the Peak Series for points here in 2 weeks' time. Excited to see that one from Daytona as well.
Let's see what the drivers had to say about it. Came the end of the evening. It was Casey Kerwin in the number 14 machine who ended up on top. We're trackside with the driver of the Napa Ford Fusion. Casey, congratulations on the win. They took it to overtime, but you made that car wide enough at the end to get the checkers. Tell us about it.
Yeah, you know, we had a really fast car this whole race, and you know, was able to qualify good and just was able to keep the track position the whole race. And you know, there at the end, you know, the top line started to form there, and then that caution came out, and then you know, it wasn't exactly sure how it was going to work on the green white checkered, and then yeah, coming to the checkered there, Keegan got outside, and then you know, my crew chief Houston was telling me to door him if I had to, and ended up RKOing him. So it was a little harder than intended, but we got the win, so can't be happier.
Well, obviously, we saw a lot of guys, you know, aside from the fact that there were only 2 yellows, a lot of guys, though, struggled to stay up front. I think there was one point in the race where only you and Ray were the guys who started top 10 that were still top 10. We had guys from the teens and the 20s work their way up. So I know it's not a full field compared to what we'll get in 2 weeks' time for the opener, but 30-plus cars, I think, has to give you guys a pretty good idea of what the draft is going to be like. What did it take to keep that car near the front?
Yeah, honestly, just making the right moves. You know, there's a lot of times that I was thinking about jumping in the top and then it died, so it's a good thing I didn't. But, you know, honestly, just having as fast of a race car as we did is what kept me up there, especially, you know, when I was out front, I was having to, you know, pedal it and stay back on the guys behind me. We were just insanely fast. So as long as we can keep that going next week, hopefully we have a good shot at winning the big race.
Obviously, you guys have, we talked about it a little bit on the race as well. You guys have drummed up a lot of attention on the social media stuff over the last couple of days, getting some big names on that car, and well, you guys parketed Victory Lane for the first time out. That's not bad. What are you expecting for you and the team come 2018? And I know that this race is strictly for bragging rights, but does this take a little bit of the nerves off knowing that you can go head-to-head with these guys and get rid of maybe some of those jitters headed into next week?
Yeah, it gives me confidence at Daytona. You know, I don't really know how we're going to stack up everywhere else, but, you know, really just the goal all season is just to stay in the really top 28 points would be satisfying for me. But I really think we do have a shot at making the chase and maybe competing for the title. So that's really the goal, is make the chase and see how far we can go from there.
And it's going to be a different, you know, playoff format as well this year with 5 rounds. So it'll be, you know, we have some experience with the elimination style stuff from last year, but I think it opens up the door for anybody. We will look forward to a fun 2018. Casey, before we let you take off, though, the sponsors and the shout-outs who made it happen tonight, and who's going to power you guys to a successful 2018?
Yeah, just got to thank Napa, Chick-fil-A, American Pool Supply, LSRTV for being on the car, Houston Hamer for the awesome set, and yeah, you guys for putting on the broadcast. So, and Peak and iRacing for putting this whole series on. So
we had a lot of fun tonight. We appreciate you guys hopping into the race here as well, and we appreciate the time, Casey. Congratulations on the checker. Best of luck for 2018. Hopefully for you guys, this is a sign of things to come, and I'll have an opportunity to chat with you down the line.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks, guys.
Race winner tonight in the LSRTV Clash. Casey Kerwin gets the win, spinning across the finish line in second position. Well, as the driver who has the number 2 on the door, Ray Alfala, comes home in second position tonight. Ray, congrats. You guys were up there and I think led for the first 9 laps and in a pretty comfortable position, but for the second half of the race, things got a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, it definitely did. First of all, thanks. Big thanks to you guys, LSRTV, for putting on the show and being on the car. Uh, yeah, it was. Car was really fast. It was kind of an experimental setup that we tried, and it felt pretty good. Although it's kind of difficult to know if you even have a fast car with the way this draft package works. But um, I was in a good position there on the final restart. Before the overtime, and I kind of made the move too early. Nobody went with me, so I just kind of got stuck in the back. But yeah, the overtime was interesting to say the least. It was just a good show for the fans at the end.
When we saw you guys with that gamesmanship all race long, I think it was the 11 Colton Davis at one point, you had a big run in third. We're going to go to the outside of the racetrack. He came up to block to take that lawn away, if you will. You decided to stay down low, and then when you went to make a move to the outside yourself, nobody went with you, and that's kind of how you got shuffled back to the back. Do you expect those games to kind of go along all season, and have you pinpointed a couple of guys that you're not going to be relying on in 2 weeks now?
Well, I wouldn't rely on myself either, so but it's a little bit different in the afternoon setting. The track has a little bit less grip, so it might be a little bit more of a handful. And the race is longer, and everybody's just more uptight for the first race of the season. So this is more of a fun thing where people just try things. I probably wouldn't have tried such a move. I probably won't try such a move at our first race next week. But it's a big learning experience, and we're just kind of, trying to figure out where it works and what doesn't. But everybody out there is just kind of out for themselves, and you try to put yourself in the best position to win.
Obviously, you guys are coming off of a very competitive 2017 campaign, and expect the same this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We have virtual racing school on board again, and we're going to go out there and try to get championship number 4. Obviously, it's a pretty big time for sim racing, with this big NASCAR esports series looming in the rumor mill. So who knows what's going to happen with that. So I think sim racing as a whole has gotten a big boost, to where the NASCAR community is discussing it, on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, and iRacing is getting a lot of publicity. Sim racing is on the radio, so I think it's just great for sim racing and everybody that participates in it as a whole.
Well, it should be a fun season. We've teased some of the different, changes we'll see to the playoffs as well, and we'll have plenty of time to chat about that once the season officially gets underway in 2 weeks' time. But we'll let you get out of here, Ray. But one more time, anybody else you want to say hi to, and as well on our end of things, thanks to you guys for putting this on tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody on Slip Angle Motorsports, we have a pretty big team now with the Road to Pro thing. That's new system, so we have several new additions. So I'm looking forward to that, and and again LSRTV for everything they do, and it should be a fun 2018.
We wish you the best of luck, and if things go well, I'm sure we'll be chatting many a time, Ray. But we appreciate it all. Congratulations on the solid finish, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Is your second place finisher tonight, Ray Alfalla, coming home in P2. And again, what was our very excited run to the end, that car was about 90 degrees ported to the infield when the checkered flag actually came out in this race. But Ray Alfalla does end up coming home in second position at the end of the LSRTV Clash. We'll pass things down trackside now. Chris is trackside with our third and fourth place finishers. Wasn't much of a difference between the two of them, but I think coming home in third at the end of all of this one was Keegan Leahy. So down with the driver of the 17 is Chris.
You're going to be standing by with the 17 of Keegan Leahy, who comes home in third, started second, coming home in third. On paper, it looks like you had a pretty, just nonchalant day, Keegan, but why don't you take us through your day here at Daytona here tonight?
Yeah, Chris, first of all, I got to say, this field, it just feels so much more stacked than the pro race that I just did a couple weeks ago. It just feels like the level of competition is just so much higher. Everyone's driving that much closer. It's just, there's no room for error in this series, and just this little race is a taste of it to come. So yeah, the race was pretty difficult for me. It just feels like the draft model doesn't really promote passing on the outside very well. I didn't really have to do too much racing on the pack in the race that I did a couple weeks ago, but yeah, just trying to claw your way up through there, it's almost impossible at times, and you got to get lucky sometimes to even make your way up a couple spots, let alone all the way up to the lead. And yeah, eventually I found myself up there. I got pretty lucky on that restart, the final restart. Made my way up into position and had a shot at it. I think it would have been quite the photo finish if we made it to the line, but in case I didn't really want to let that happen. But it's all right. We'll take the fourth or wherever I slid across the line in. And yeah, I want to thank Ray for the series. It's really fun.
Yeah, and you were just talking about how difficult it is being at the draft model and everything. You started second. At one point, being on that outside line, you dropped all the way back to 15th. You know, what were you noticing back there in the pack? How hard was it to really claw your way back up to the front and get to the point to where you could be side by side for that lead?
Yeah, so the thing is that if you don't have someone behind you, you have such a disadvantage to everybody else in front of you, because it's either you're running behind somebody and giving them that advantage of the draft, or you pull out to the outside and then run a longer line without any sort of draft to help you. So it seems like either choice you make, you're just helping the people in front of you, and you're just giving advantage to everyone around you whenever you make a decision to go into a different line. So it's really difficult. I think we need side draft to bring this series into the next level, at least with the super speedways. But yeah, all in all, still a really good race.
Yeah, and let's just talk about, you know, Daytona as a whole for a minute. You were talking about the Pro Series when we first got a hold of you, starting or ending the season at Daytona, coming to do the Clash, and then beginning next week with the Point Series race at Daytona. How much are you taking away from Daytona to really figure out where you need to be, especially on par with your field? You mentioned saying that this field is stacked. You know, how much did you learn from this race to compare yourself and find out where you need to be when it comes time for points racing?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, it just feels like everyone's so good in this field. You can't really have much of a driver advantage on people. All the setups are really strong. So what I learned for NPAS is I can't rely on any bit of an edge to carry me up to the front. I'm going to have to try to get lucky or qualify up there and just not make any mistakes. So really, these last two races have been lessons on how not to make any mistakes, not really how to do things better. And yeah, I got in a couple incidents with people. I made some contact. So I learned from those. I know where not to hit people in the rear. I know where to check up in corners to avoid hitting people or getting hit. So just a lot of little things that should help me get through the whole race and then pass in a week.
Well, there you have it. Keegan, before we let you go here, sponsors, shout out, anybody you want to say thanks to?
Yeah, got VRS on the car, virtual racing school, and they're going to be on the car for the first two races, at least, of the Nascar PD Antifreeze series. So yeah, big shout out to them. And I was racing with Chris Shearburn this race. We were talking in Discord and working together a little bit, as much as we could. And yeah, again, thank you so much to Ray for this. It was a really fun race, good practice as well. And thanks guys for broadcasting.
All right, and there you have it. Keegan, congratulations on where we think you came up in the
fourth?
I think third place finish is what we got on our screen right now. So congratulations on the third. Really so much chaos going on through there, but hope to see you back next week trying to maybe improve or be up there fighting for the points race. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Have a good one.
All right, as we move on from Keegan Leahy, going to step to the driver that we think has finished for us. It's still really unofficial here, as there was a whole bunch of chaos going on. Marcus Richardson had a really strong day, started fourth, finished fourth, but a whole lot of stuff happened in between that. Marcus, how did you feel you did out there?
Nah, they told me P3 earlier, so I'm taking P3.
But you can I'll say P3 too. You can take P3, but it was just so crazy down there towards the end.
Yeah, it's Richmond Raceway. Toyota Camry was really fast. I had a horrible error at the start of the race. Didn't have the right setup in, so I had to ride around in the back to start until I got caught up there, and I was just lucky to make it through the carnage and get my way back to the front.
And you know, how'd you feel you did tonight? You know, this race coming a week before the points race goes on. So really talk about, you know, all the stuff that you saw today and how much you're going to be able to lean on today as kind of a practice race for next week.
Overall, I thought I did pretty well. We could use a little more suck up in the draft. It's pretty hard to come by for us, it feels like, on dynamic auto sports. As a driver, I think my spatial awareness needs to be a little better. I caused that big wreck there with 5 to go. I gave too much room to Ottinger there in the bottom and caused the pileup. So some things I need to work on, but I think the setup's really close. And if we're in the right position, we can win the race.
Yeah, and that's all. And you know, talk is Impasse as a whole. You know, what do you look forward to this 2018 season? Where do you think you can be, and where are you hoping to end up? And how any tracks you think you're strong at? Any tracks you're looking forward to on the schedule?
I ran really well last year at Chicago. I'm really excited that Bristol's going to be on the schedule this year, so I'm looking forward to that. But oddly enough, short tracks on our team are normally not our strong suit. So hopefully we can turn that around. But our strength normally is the plate tracks and the mile and a halves, which our mile and a halves are pretty much the whole schedule for the most part.
And you know, you mentioned it, alluding to it the beginning of the chat. You know, the Richmond Raceway deal, just such an amazing thing that came about here. Just talk about how excited you are to be working with them, and you know, just how it all came about.
It's an amazing partnership. It's the first esports venture for iRacing, and I was just lucky enough to be a part of it. They just reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested, and I jumped at the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, you can't really turn that down when you get to be the first of something. Marcus, before we let you go, sponsor shout outs, you know, who you got to say thanks to here tonight?
So big shout out to LSRTV for putting on this race, and Ray for getting everything together for it. I know that's got to be a lot of hard work. And Richmond Raceway, my main sponsor. I have a few associates as sponsors, so bear with me. I have Sim Seats on the Car, Velocity Micro, Kicker Audio, Heyman Hustle, Looking for Larry Agency, PCG Sports Desk, and MRN. And hopefully I get a lot more interviews this upcoming season to plug my sponsors.
Yeah, well, we definitely look forward to it. Look forward to talking to you throughout the rest of the season, hopefully, and good luck in this upcoming 2018 Impasse season.
Yep, thank you. Make sure you follow Chaos Crew RVA on Twitter for more updates.
And there you have it, guys. That's Marcus Richardson, driver of the 01, came home in 4th. Marcus, hope to talk to you down the road.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Evan, and there you have it. We've ran through all the interviews, ran the 40 laps, and then some for a crazy finish that we still don't know the official results for. It's just crazy race, and if this is anything that we have to look forward to in Daytona in 1 week's time with the point series race, it's going to be awesome out there.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and you know, for the folks at Richmond Raceway, we've been hitting them with retweets. If you want to engage with us on social media, it's on Twitter at LSRTV. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official. We've been tweeting through the night, and make sure to engage with us over there. But this is always such a fun event, Chris. Last year we had the LSRTV Dash, and as well the LSRTV All-Star Race, and hope that will come to fruition again a little bit later on. But these guys are set to go racing for the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing. And I think the best comment in all of the discussions we had is, chatting with our drivers there, and they said, I could really feel the difference. I could tell the step up from the Pro Series to this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series. And that's on a place like Daytona, where I would argue, most guys have a shot. It's the most equal playing field you're going to find all year. Once the season gets into week 2 at Phoenix, then you're really going to start to feel the heat of why these guys are the best sim racers on the planet. And it should be another fun season, but happy to be a part of this dash as always at LSR TV, and obviously wishing everybody the best of luck for the year.
Yeah, you really took the words out of my mouth. This is why these drivers here in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze series are considered the best. They're getting all these opportunities, and iRacing is really, you know, taking 2018 by storm. Always in the news. I think at least one news item a week from iRacing. It's just amazing to see how far we've grown as a community. I'll say it's just amazing. Can't wait to see how the season plays out. And you mentioned it, Keegan, saying this is such a step up. Gonna be excited to see as we go throughout the season, getting some of the mile half, some of the short tracks in there, how all these drivers stack up and how they feel going into it.
We thank you for joining us tonight. And again, we are still live with the Make Chester Proud 500 with our friends at the Drive for Suicide Prevention. So you can stick it right here on LSRTV, jump over to the other live stream to catch that race for the end of the night. But other than that, we've still got plenty of sim racing action to come in your way this week. We'll be back on a Wednesday, the 14th, 9 o'clock p.m. for the Myrtle Beach Simulation Series. The Upstate Racing League is the championship race on Thursday night at 9:30. The Southwest Construction Super Speedway Cup Series Friday night at 9, and our Saturday night doubleheader also gets kicked off at 9 Eastern, starting with the Outlaw Modifieds and ending with the USR Trucks. Until next time, though, on behalf of the entire team at LSR TV, for the folks behind the scenes and the crew tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, Chris Murdoch, and our producer, Hugo Louise, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate your race winner tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, Casey Kerwin, on winning the LSR TV Dash. The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series returns for the 2018 campaign. It all starts next Tuesday night on February the 20th. All of those live races can be found with our friends at RaceSpot TV at iRacing.com/live. Until next time, good night from Daytona, and we'll catch you next time here on your home for sim racing, LSR TV.